What are the implications of climate change's impact on the environment that cater to people in poverty? So first off, we need to look at what climate change is. Climate change is the climate changing. However, what is really different about today's climate change versus climate change previously is at which rate climate change is changing. Climate change is mainly caused by humans. This is because humans' activities have caused and changed the natural greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. By burning fossil fuels like coal and oil, it has increased the concentration of the atmospheric carbon and increasing the average world temperature around 2 degrees Fahrenheit in the 21st century. However, this may vary differently to each country, mainly negatively, but it can also beneficially impact the environment. Quote from NASA states, 2 degrees may sound like a small amount, but it's an unusual event in our planet's recent history. Earth's climate record, preserved in tree rings, ice cores, and coral reefs, show that the global average temperature is stable over long periods of time. Furthermore, small changes in temperatures correspond to enormous changes in the environment. Africa, the second largest continent. Around 1.2 billion people live there. About 60% of the inhabitants there depend on farming. First off, we need to understand that these farmers mainly depend on their fields to survive. When they have bad harvests, the next question for them is, are they going to survive? For those who don't farm are also affected by the poor harvest. And when the demand is high, which every human needs food, and the resource is low, supply and demand, the price goes up. A studies by the World Bank Group, which are a global partnership in fighting poverty, estimates by 2030 crop yield losses could increase the food prices by 12% higher on average in sub-Saharan Africa. And to add, more people in Africa spend as much as 60% of their income on food. And adding on to this, IPCC, International Panel on Climate Change, released a landmark report on climate change, and within these reports, it should be highly noted that 1/3 of all income in Africa is from agriculture, and also 1/3 of household income comes from crops and livestock. And as we know, Africa doesn't have a plethora of water. In fact, people have to walk miles and miles for water, and spend usually the rest of the day farming. To add to that, climate change could make it worse, particularly in northern Africa, where 1/5 of Africa's population is currently experiencing severe water shortages. So we can conclude that climate change highly impacts developed nations in agriculture and its environment around. And as we all know, food first before industrialization. And if we want to seek out and help end world poverty, we must begin to lessen the stress of the people in developed nations to begin ending poverty. So, how do we help? Well, help is actually on the way. Technology is aiding in uncovering new water sources, and we have found significant freshwater reserves in 2 large aquifers in northern Kenya. Another way to help decrease climate change is to cut down on our carbon emissions. This may not be simple, but at one point it might be necessary for all humans. So, how do we achieve this? Well, like any other plan, we need to achieve this slowly but surely. Finally, the most impactful way to end climate change is to educate people and yourself and apply the knowledge you learn. Finally, I would like to thank these sources.